Hey guys, it's me, Phyrexian Gaming, and I'm making this video to talk about an idea that I had for a Dungeons & Dragons campaign kind of thing. I came up with this idea during a brainstorming session for a different campaign, but I thought that this idea wouldn't really fit, so I decided to make a separate idea for it. I wanted to make this particular little campaign kind of a really big challenge for my players without just throwing a lich at them when they're 3rd level. So I looked through some books to see if there are any skills my players would be overly reliant on. For example, I looked through Player's Handbook, obviously, and then Xanathar's, and some other websites and stuff that talk about how to play early game well. So the only things I could find in the super early game, I'm intending to start this at level 1 or 2, were cantrips for spellcasters. Most, bards, obviously, are going to be using Vicious Mockery a lot, and then wizards are using, I don't know, Acid Hand, or not Acid Hand, whatever it is, Acid Spray. That just, deal some damage really, early on for a good amount, 1 action for 1d8, I think that's the acid one, maybe it's 12, I don't remember. And the starting equipment you get right out, so a long sword or a short sword, some very basic equipment that you get super early on that helps you in the early game. And I decided that I wanted to be mean to my players as a DM and try something that I thought up. This is the name, it's in progress. A Naked and Afraid campaign, where I'm going to start them out with absolutely nothing and make them go pick up stuff and find things to fight with, which is going to be causing them to use, at least very early on, improvised weapons and unarmed strikes, and they'll be fighting in a much more conservative way because your AC is not high because you don't have armor. I decided to pick Death House for this because I'm a mean DM. No, it's just, it's hard, and then there's weapons kind of all around and armor that they can use, but it's not enough where they'll be using, they'll just be kitted out instantly. First room, they've all got a full set of armor, which would defeat the purpose. So, for instance, they're over in the main hall, there's a long sword up on the wall. In the Den of Wolves, there's, let's see, there's a heavy crossbow and a crossbow it holds a heavy crossbow, a light crossbow, and a hand crossbow, so 3 different crossbows in a box that you need to succeed on a dexterity check to get in, and I've had players before completely ignore that box, which is an oof for them, because those 3 weapons definitely help a lot in the Death House against some of the things that when they're up close they really hurt, i.e. the Shambling Mound in the end, or if you change that to something else, whatever. But for any DMs that want to run this, want to really try this idea, I would avoid having, if you want to try this with a party, if you have a player that loves playing the monk, I would avoid having them play a monk. Don't limit them, but monks run through things like this really easily, as they just, unarmed strikes. It's the thing the monk does. It just hits a stupid amount of times with no weapons for the key points, or chi, or key, however you want to say it. And it just doesn't work. They don't use armor, and they don't use weapons other than, a quarterstaff, I'm pretty sure. And that just makes it really easy for them, so you generally don't want a monk. Most of the spellcasters are fine, because the cantrips aren't gonna bring them that far in the Death House. Yeah, it'll help, but some of the enemies you run into are definitely a lot stronger than a couple cantrips. Let's look for some more weapons in here. I know there's the animated armor quite far in, where I have just let if the players kill the animated armor, I've let one of them just take the armor suit that was animated and use it, which of course helps that player a lot because I'm pretty sure it's plate mail or something, which is obviously a lot of AC. And let's see, I know there's some other things. There's some clothing, which is always funny, and I've had players take the clothing and like throw it at things, which I've used blinded before, which was funny. Tear down curtains. There's a lot of oil lamps in the house, which some fire cantrips can do quite a bit with. Like if you just dump the oil out, it just forces your players to be much more creative with what they're doing, instead of just using their +3 longsword or whatever, or something better. And I've used magic items before in here. The magic items are fine. It makes it like kind of a lot harder to make it a challenge, because once the player has a magic item, like +1 then is fine, +2s are a little scarier, and then if you give your player a +3, it kind of defeats the purpose of being like weak and having to fight stronger monsters. Let me look for some other things. I know there are a couple suits of armor that are just like in decoration that you can have your players wear. Let's see. Okay. There's a secret room farther in. This is area 9 if you're in the book or whatever. And there's spell scrolls. Spell scrolls are obviously powerful in here, but because they're like 1 or 2 use, I don't remember how many the ones in here give you, they of course make it like a much harder to, it's like, oh, you have this powerful weapon, and a lot of players won't even use that powerful weapon for quite a while. Because if you use that on some random zombie or something, I don't think there's a zombie in the death house, but this is just an example, it's like a waste of a spell scroll. The spell scrolls, I'll read them out for you guys. You have Bless, protection from poison, and spiritual weapon. So spiritual weapon is a good one. Protection from poison is a good one. That one helps a lot, actually. No, wait. It doesn't help a ton. If it was protection from necrotic or whatever, I don't think that exists. But maybe if it did. Thing I've changed, because specters are horrifying to low-level players, the nurse I've made into like a little... It can be reasoned with, and I use the ghost stat block instead of the specter, because a specter can just outright kill someone instead of knocking them down, which is scary. There are also a lot of things that are worth a lot, so if you're running multiple sessions and they get out of the death house, then they can kind of sell stuff and kind of get more on their feet. The dungeons, I've put equipment in the crypts before, because there's a crypt room, I believe. There's like a room full of crypts and coffins, and I've put things in the coffins before, like pretty simple things like crossbow bolts, or I put like a dagger in there probably. Let's see. Yeah, because if you look at Area 23, the family crypts, it says empty crypt, and then it's Walter's crypt, it has nothing into it. It has nothing in it. Gustav's crypt has nothing in it. Elizabeth's crypt has a swarm of insects in it, which is mean. And then Rose's crypt has nothing in it. And I put things in there. Sometimes I put like gold or something. I know the bodies aren't actually in there, but you know, maybe they put some stuff in there for storage. I'm not totally sure. It was a pretty weird family, so you know what? I'm not gonna question anything. In the reliquary, which is a lot farther in, like bottom dungeon, end of the thing, unless they go the wrong way, which is never a good thing. There's a knife carved of human bone, which I've used as a dagger. There's a dagger, And then I believe there's some other things. Let me look. Nope. Okay, I thought there was. But there are definitely, let's see. Oh, this is a big one if you have a wizard in your party. In the cult leader's quarters, there's a spell book, I believe. Hold on, let me look. Treasure a character searching the footlocker. I find a folded cloak of protection, a small wooden coffer containing 4 potions of healing, a chain shirt, a mess kit, a flask of alchemist's fire, a bullseye lantern, a set of thieves' tool, and a spell book with a yellow leather cover containing the following wizard spells. It has first level, Disguise Self, Identify, Mage Armor, Magic Missile, Protection from Evil and Good. Second level, Dark Vision, Hold Person, Invisibility, and Magic Weapon. So if you have a wizard in your party, they're going to be pretty weak for a lot of this. And if they go in there and they find that, they're going to be like, eyes are going to light up. They're going to be so happy because they finally have something to do instead of just spamming cantrips, which, as playing a bard before, like one of the basic ones, or like Valor or something like that, you just spam Vicious Mockery and do pretty much nothing else, which is not that fun. There's, let's see, the Tome of Strahd, obviously, which if you're gonna finish, like, if you're gonna keep going and you're gonna, like, do the rest of Curse of Strahd in Naked and Afraid, having the Tome of Strahd is really nice. You can find the Blood Spear, which I believe, yes, you can heal, which obviously in Naked and Afraid is amazing, having a weapon that you can kill things and that heals you. Guthlaia's Staff, I believe, has some healing. And then, let's see. Ooh, Blights. So when you get Guthlaia's Staff, Blights won't attack you. And as a DM, I love using Blights as a random encounter, or just in the forest or whatever, because they're really fun to fight, in my experience. I love not the Needle Blight. The Needle Blight's fine. The Vine Blight. The Vine Blight is amazing because it shoots out and can, shoots out like a vine and can grab players. And that is really scary because it does, 2d6 or something, which obviously isn't a ton of damage. But when somebody's grappled, and I think it's just grappled, it might have another condition. Having a grappled player it's obviously a minor thing, but it can be scary. Let me look back here. But anyways, the Naked and Afraid idea I think is really fun. I don't recommend it with new players, because new players will die instantly most of the time. Even if you're not doing Death House, having a new player with absolutely nothing, they won't know how, they won't check for secret doors because they don't know those exist. They metagame, they don't know those exist as a player. And they I've had some new players, a thing new players ask for a lot of the time is when they kill something, they'll ask, they'll be fighting a goblin, and the goblin will have a short sword or a spear or a club, and new players will ask for that. In my experience, more experienced players, using experience too much in a sentence, won't ask for that because they know weapons are a lot better. That is a perk to new players. They are so excited whenever they kill something. They're like, oh my gosh, did I level up? And I use milestones. XP is fine. I'm not judging anybody who uses XP, but I don't like XP that much just because you'll have your whole campaign planned out, and you'll have these certain you'll have places where you want people to be certain levels, and most of the time D&D players never do exactly what you want them to do as the DM, and they will take off and do something else, and then they'll come to this place, if you're using XP, with way higher level than you wanted them to be. So I use milestones just because when you get this done, you level up, which is great because the players will actually have it is another like hook or motivation to do quests that you give them. Just like random tips for the Death House I'm gonna go through now just because we're on the topic of it. Never show your characters art of Rose and Thorn. It's beautiful art, but they look evil. And the whole kind of point of it is they're helping children, so they go in and save the children. But the children look evil in the art, which I get is how they're supposed to look, but doesn't help the aesthetic of, like, their aesthetic is not right for the hook, I guess. I've had issues, if you're doing a Naked and Afraid, tone down the damage that when you're, if they do the cult thing, like, if they don't appease the cult and the house attacks them, which most players don't appease the cult, tone down the damage if they don't have armor on, because most of the time there are like 3 suits of armor in the whole house, or like 4 suits of armor, and if you're running a campaign with more players than that, which the Death House is pretty easy if there are more than that, you'll have players that don't have enough health to survive the blades, because I think it does, like, a lot of damage. Let me look at the cult. I remember what it's called, because I've read through this so many times. The cult is denied. All the windows are bricked up, which is, of course, kind of scary. I love the fear in this book, this is why I love Curse of Strahd. Let's see. 2d10 damage when you go through. So that is an average of 10 damage, which if you have a wizard without armor on, that will almost always kill them. And it can do 20 damage, which will kill most 2 to 3, or I think you get level 3 when you get out. So level 2 players, 20 will kill pretty much all of them. But anyways, this is my little Naked and Afraid video for the Death House and Curse of Strahd, which, by the way, not sponsored by D&D or whatever, is an amazing little precon adventure. It's so fun. The element of fear is amazing. I love the mists. Like, whole mists mechanic where they can't leave, which is great as a DM, because if they try to do something else, you can be like, the mists engulf you. And they're like, oh, well, I guess we'll do your quest. But anyways, that was my video. Signing off.